definition of creativity. I have to agree with Albert Einstein, who said creativity is intelligence having fun. I would only add a couple of elements to his formula: passion and courage. I mean, Einstein's better than all of us. He should be in his own ad agency. My upbringing, I was born on Christmas Day in the little North Texas town of Corsicana. Corsicana is where the first oil west of the Mississippi was discovered. My parents, God bless them, my father, Tommy McClure, was in the United States Army Air Corps. He built planes in World War II, and when he got home from the war, he and his best friend and an army buddy of his started Presley and McClure Automotive to repair all the new cars that were coming about post-war. My mother was an aspiring actress, and she used to portray the characters in the book reviews that she would present on stage at Kinslow House there in Corsicana. Those were kinder, gentler times. We didn't lock our doors at night. And when this kid got on his bicycle in the morning with a peanut butter and jelly sandwich in his backpack to head out, the only rule was be home by supper time. I had lots of inspirations early on. My grandmother, Eula Colson, taught me how to tap into my inner strengths, which I felt like served me well throughout my life. My father didn't just believe that honesty is the best policy, he thought it was the only policy. And my mother was a great presenter. She taught me how to present. She would always say, stand up, speak up, and shut up. Through the years, I've had amazing people that have helped me through my career. Among them, Red McCombs, who, besides being one of the largest automobile dealers in the country, also owned the Minnesota Vikings for a while, the San Antonio Spurs. I got the pleasure and privilege of working with Sam Walton at Walmart, back when they were just a regional store, and now they're one of the largest stores, one of the largest companies in America. And of course, Herb Kelleher, the chairman of Southwest Airlines. And those are inspirations that I will never forget. At the time I got to UT, I was a journalism major, but there was an advertising sequence. And I actually got I majored in advertising. I wrote for the Daily Texan newspaper, and I also was a teaching assistant for the photojournalism lab. So I got to teach people how to take film off of spools and print their pictures and so forth too. So I got a lot of journalism background. So I met my future partners while in school, and somehow we sort of hung out together, and we decided to start a company here at UT, and we called it Media 70. And we began producing multimedia shows and showing them on campus, and we would charge people 50 cents or a joint to get in. And we were a college network of idea people. It was 1971, and 5 graduates of the University of Texas at Austin decided that first and foremost we wanted to stay in Austin. So we looked around at each other and said, so what are we each going to do? Well, it turns out that Steve Gursich, the G, who was an ad grad himself, was one of the most honest, truthful people I've ever met. And Roy Spence, he was a government grad. And Roy is probably one of the best pitchmen on the planet. Jim Darlick, the D in GSD&M, was a fine art major, and he's one of the most exceptional art directors I've ever worked with in my career. Judy Trabulsi, who's the ampersand in GSD&M, because she didn't know if she was going to change her name and get married, so we let her be the ampersand. And Judy was a radio, television, film major, so she decided to take on the role of media maven. And then there's me, and I guess I got dealt the creative card because I was the writer and a pencil art director. Being partners in the ad agency and founders in the ad agency, we never had any bosses. And that's an interesting way to grow up in this business. But it also meant we had no rules. There was no rule book for us. My partners and I learned early on that you don't have to be from Madison Avenue to be madmen. And We were very successful in attracting some great talent from New York and Chicago and California and Florida. I think because Austin has a different way of looking at things, and we were winning national and international awards. And when the people got here, I think they realized what a great place this is, and our core values fit their core values. GSD&M's core values are cast in concrete on the rotunda of our office here, and they include maybe my favorite, curiosity, because if you don't have curiosity, you probably don't belong in the ad business. But it also includes winning. We believe that we should have clients that are winners. We believe we are winners, so winning is important to us. Freedom and responsibility. We give our people lots of freedom, but we also demand that they be responsible for the work they do. And community, because we believe in giving back to our communities. We're not really a business or a company. We've always thought of ourselves, as Sister Sledge said, we are family. One of our first biggest accounts was the Pearl Brewing Company in San Antonio, Texas, and it was part of a family of beers, and so we did work for Pearl, Country Club Malt Liquor. They had brands like Narragansett and Lone Star and other beers in that family of brands that they had. And then the marketing director left there to go to Coors. So we followed along, and we picked up the Coors Banquet account. Not long after that, we were lucky to land Southwest Airlines. They had a sense of humor that probably was driven by their chairman, Herb Kelleher, who was a cigarette-smoking, wild turkey drinking chairman of like none other. My partner, Roy Spence, was sitting outside of Herb's office back in 1981 when a red-faced Bob Bloom walked out of Herb's office. He had just resigned the account to go with a bigger airline. And Herb walked out and looked at Roy and said, Roy, do you guys do airline advertising? And Roy said, yes, we can. We can do airline advertising. And he said, if you like us and you trust us, we can do your ad business. Herb went back into his office. Roy got on the phone and called me and said, get up here. I wrote the Southwest Anthem on the flight up to Southwest Airlines, and it was from then on a relationship with one of the finest companies, one of the finest men I've ever met in my life. I won't sing the anthem, but it was called the Southwest Spirit, and the words were something to the effect, there's a certain Southwest spirit. If you listen, you can hear it, and you can see it in the smiles along the way. And Herb insisted at the end of it that we thank our passengers, our customers, for what their participation was. So it ended by saying we're Southwest Airlines and we owe it all. We owe it all to you.
Well, there might be some other reasons.
We're Southwest Airlines, keeping faith low, spirits high for you.
Herb Kelleher was a real prankster, and we got along famously, but we were always playing tricks on one another, and he referred to me as his creative genius, which I very much appreciated. And yet one time when he was introducing me, he said to an audience of 1,500 people, ladies and gentlemen, Tim McClure is an idiot savant. He's got the idiot part down pat, but he's still working on the savant part. What most people don't know, particularly in New York, we picked up the 100th anniversary of the Wall Street Journal. We went to them and said, we have an idea, guys. Your Wall Street Journal, for the last 100 years, it's been two sections of the paper, the main section and the stock section. Well, we think you need a marketplace section. And of course they said, tell you what, you do advertising and we'll do the newspaper business. Well, we fought hard, and within a couple of months, the Wall Street Journal added the marketplace section because it's marketing that drives the investment engine. We've handled the U.S. work for Range Rover and BMW. We now handle Dodge and Chrysler and Fiat and Ram trucks, and so we have a lot of car background in our home here. For the last almost 3 decades, we have handled the United States Air Force, and we've just added the Space Force, which is phenomenal.
I see myself. The future is where I'll make history.
Let me take you back in time to 1985. Texas was spending $20 million a year cleaning up the litter on its highways, and that figure was rising by at least 15% a year. So we were asked by the Texas Department of Transportation to join other agencies in pitching for the anti-litter campaign. So 2 weeks out, we didn't have a campaign slogan. And I recall what my mother always said when she stepped into my room in the morning, son, your room is a mess. A mess. That's what this was. Not litter, not trash, a mess. And then like a bolt out of the blue, don't mess with Texas. hit me.
Mamas, tell all your babies, don't mess with Texas. Don't let them throw cans from them old pickup trucks. Don't let them throw bottles and papers and such.
Most people call "Don't Mess with Texas" a slogan. I call it a battle cry. This message started appearing up on bumper stickers at truck stops around Texas without any explanation. And then in 1986, in the Cotton Bowl, Stevie Ray Vaughan broke his wonderful "Don't" message and leaned forward and said,
"Don't mess with Texas."
The campaign broke in 1986. By 1990, litter on the Texas highways had been reduced by 72%. And not only is it the most successful anti-litter campaign in history, but in 2006 it was voted the best advertising slogan in America. And we have a bronze plaque on Madison Avenue to prove it. So in 2000, at the turn of the millennium, I decided I want to concentrate on branding. And so my daughter, Allison McClure Blair, joined me straight out of college, and we founded Mythos Legends, a global brand consultancy. And our point was we wanted to build legends like Southwest Airlines and the United States Air Force and others, and we've been very fortunate to attract clients, both Fortune 500 clients and emerging companies that wanted their legend to be bigger than they ever imagined. One of those legends is Chili's restaurants, and Chili's restaurants came to me and said, we need a new brand identity for our company. We got all these different chili peppers all over our stores. And I said, well, let me work on that. And we developed what we call the chili pepper, which is a pepper where the stem serves as an apostrophe to the letter S. So I presented it to the Chili's board, and they all looked at me and they said, but don't we have to say Chili's? And I said, I don't think so. And I said, but I knew you were going to ask this question. So we've printed up some golf shirts. We've embroidered them with the chili pepper. It just is a pepper with the letter S after it. You guys play golf on the weekends. Go out this weekend, wear these golf shirts, and let's talk again next week. The following Monday they came in and they said, unbelievable. Everybody on the golf course knew who we were. So a successful branding for that great company. In the early 2000s, I was fortunate to be on the foundation board of the Bob Bullock Texas State History Museum as it was being built, and it's a fabulous facility. And the board came to me and they said, can you do an IMAX movie? And just as we had told Herb Kelleher we could handle airline advertising, I said, of course we can do an IMAX movie, having, of course, never done one. But I knew that we, as native Texans, had probably a better perspective on it than somebody from California, New York, or Florida. And so I took on the assignment. We did the first IMAX movie called Texas: The Big Picture. We traveled 10,000 miles around the state of Texas, filming all over the state. So that was a crowning glory for them and for me. And then after that, I've had stories in my writer's head for years and years and years. And the COVID years gave me the opportunity to sit down and write some novels. I wrote 3 novels between 2019 and 2021. They're twisted Texas thrillers. And I always like to say I got it out of my system because I had had these stories rattling around in my brain forever. And then once I got a little stint of throat cancer, I had some more time on my hands, so I wrote 2 international thrillers, one set in China and the other set in Russia. So when my wife read them, I said, so who do you think is going to come to kill me, the Chinese or the Russians? And she said, I think they'll come together. 33 years ago, I married Samantha Eleanor Zanetti, who was one of the first account directors at McCann Erickson. And I met her judging the New York Andy Awards. And after she had our first kids, our first and second child, she came to me and she said, you know, the world doesn't need another ad person. Would you mind if I went into the travel business? And I said, I think that's a great idea. So we turned to our kids, who were then 3 and 4, and said, I tell you what, kids, we promise you that by the time you're 12, we will take you to all 7 continents. And we delivered on that promise. We all learned a valuable lesson out of it. We learned how to have a world consciousness, and we became world citizens. And that affected everything I had to do about advertising for the rest of my career. 2022, we had just survived the COVID years somehow. And my family and I, in December, were on our way to Curacao for my December 25th birthday. And I stopped in for a routine checkup because I'd had a sore throat for a couple of months. And that's when I was diagnosed with stage 4 throat cancer. We didn't get to Curacao that year. I went through 7 rounds of chemo and 35 rounds of radiation, but I'm happy to say that I'm in remission now and have been now for a couple of years, and it's a life-changing experience. I'm fond of saying that the past is history, the future is mystery. That's why the present is a gift, and believe me, I have learned to live in the present.